Howdy, and welcome to Internet Roundup, the rootinest, tootinest, barn burninest roundup show on the web.
That's right.
Can't believe people watch this. And how many people just turned it off on board a Delta flight?
I would say 7/8.
Hang in there, people. It gets so much better.
Or don't, because it doesn't necessarily.
That's Josh, and I'm Chuck, and believe it or not, we do a wildly successful podcast called Stuff You Should Know.
That we're good at.
And you can also find that on the flight, which you should probably just change it over to the podcast.
Yeah, head on over.
For good, intelligent, educational entertainment.
Yeah.
But this is silly.
Where you can't see our bodies.
Oh, yeah. For God's sake.
Detracts from things.
We round up the internet 2 articles at a time, and this first one I'm going to call Academic Achievement.
That was a nice graphic.
Maybe we can get a echo, a reverb or something on that.
I'm sure Casey's going to do something great.
We like to highlight smart kids, and this kid is much smarter than both of us put together. His name is, his name is Landon, and he's from Virginia, Aldie, Virginia. Should we say his last name? It's in the paper.
Sure.
Landon Labuskus.
Labusks. One of the two.
We're so bad with the pronunciations. But this kid is one of only 12 students on planet Earth last year who scored a perfect score on his AP Advanced Placement, which is what it stands for.
Right.
Not being redundant. College-level calculus test. 12 people, 10 of them are from the United States, 1 from Canada, and 1 from Istanbul, Turkey, scored a perfect score on their AP test, which is amazing. 0 mistakes.
Yeah.
45 questions?
Yeah, but that makes it sound like a short test. The test actually lasts about 3.5 hours.
Yeah, well, 45 multiple choice and then 6 free response questions.
Which is, we're talking about calculus here. There's not supposed to be free response.
I guarantee you,
like, why do you love calculus?
I could not get one question right.
Not one.
Today.
If I did, it would be completely accidental.
Oh, multiple choice, sure.
Yeah.
You just guess C on all of them.
Exactly. I make a Christmas tree on my Scantron sheet.
Yeah, boy, I've done that. Scantron.
Did you really? I was always afraid to. I was like, oh, this test is going to be the one that decides my future.
You know, I did that one time on some stupid test that I had to take.
Did you pass?
I made S's like a big snake.
Yeah.
And that's not me. I was a smart kid. I studied. I was good in school.
What happened to you?
I don't know,
Were you
man.
on like cough medicine?
I broke
or something?
bad one day. And just decided I didn't care.
Wow.
And look at me now.
Change your life?
No, man, look at me. We're rounding up the internet on Delta.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Maybe it changed your life for the better.
Perhaps.
S's instead of Christmas trees. Never considered that.
So Landon is a humble guy, and
he is.
He said, you know what? There was a guy here a couple of years ago that didn't even take the classes. He was a freshman.
Yeah.
So he couldn't even take the classes, and he got a perfect score.
Well, he didn't get a perfect score. He got the highest score you can get is a 5.
A 5.
So Landon got a 5 on the calculus test, which is the highest score you can get. And he was like, yeah, figures. I felt pretty good about it.
Sure.
But then a couple months later, his school was contacted by the people who give out the test and said, you need to tell this kid that he got a perfect score.
Yeah.
He didn't get anything wrong on this test.
Yeah, and he pointed
out.
out.
He was like, whoa, that's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, he was proud of it, but he said, you know, it's one thing to know the maths like I do.
Right.
He said, but then to not, like, you can make silly mistakes.
Right.
And I didn't do that. And it seemed like he was just as proud at his focus as he was just being good at math.
Yeah, and you're right. He is humble. He did immediately shed light on other people he went to school with who are, in his estimation, better at calculus than him.
Yeah.
And he went out and celebrated as teenagers do by going out with his mom to the Dairy Queen.
It's very
to get a
nice.
salted caramel truffle blizzard.
Yeah, and his mom points out that he was always a problem solver, and she says, I remember when he was like 5 years old, he would think in terms 3x plus 2y equals, and she just stops because she doesn't even know what that equals.
Right. ...
But she said he would just get out of the shower and basically tell me things that he was thinking about, and what he was doing was algebraic equations at 5. And he said math makes sense to him. He said he loves the blackness and whiteness, and that there is a correct answer, not open to interpretation.
Right.
But you can also be creative and how you go about solving the problem, and
Yeah.
he thinks it's very artistic as well.
Yeah.
So this kid is headed somewhere.
Yeah, and again, you said he was 12 of he was one of 12
Yeah.
who scored a perfect score on the calculus test. And there's all sorts of AP tests that you can test into AP courses. And this kind of puts it in perspective for me a little more. So 2.5 million students took 4.5 million AP tests last year.
Yeah.
322 obtained perfect scores on any of those tests.
Amazing.
So out of 4.5 million tests taken, 322 were perfect, and this kid was one of them.
Crazy. I took AP English and AP History.
Yeah.
And I tested out a freshman English.
Did you just buff your fingernails on your shirt?
Yeah.
How did they look?
Gnarly and chewed.
So,
I tested
go ahead,
out
I'm
of
sorry.
I tested out of AP English my freshman year, English 101, because I was good at it.
Yeah.
How about that?
You're like, I love Shakespeare, and they're like, get this kid into AP.
But math, boy, oh boy, I've never been good at it.
Me either.
My brother, great at math.
Oh, yeah. Scott.
What's next?
Rambling, Chuck.
I love this because I love, my wife and I started a thing a couple of years ago. There's the exercise walks, and then we started a thing we do every now and then. We just called a soul stroll,
Oh, nice.
where we just put down the Fitbit. We don't use a Fitbit anyway, but
Right.
put down the theoretical Fitbit and just take a walk through the neighborhood and admire the houses and breathe in the air, and it's really good for you.
Yeah, it is. You guys would make great ramblers.
Oh, man, I'd be a great rambler.
So over in the UK, there's a group called the Ramblers, and the whole idea behind the Ramblers, they started in the about the turn of the last century.
Uh-huh.
The whole idea is that the way that you're meant to see the world is at about 3.5 miles an hour.
Agreed.
Just a nice slow walk. That's the human speed of locomotion.
Yep.
And around the turn of the last century, they found that people were really starting to enclose property into private property, and it was making it really hard to access the countryside.
Like,
people,
get off my land.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Here's my shotgun. I'm going to let it do the talking for me.
Right.
And the Ramblers are like, well, people need to escape the city. They need to make it to the countryside. They need access to these places so they can just ramble.
Yeah, don't own this stuff. Don't own land.
Right. Or even if you do, allow some egress through this land.
Sure,
right?
a nice pathway.
Exactly. So they became I want to say like a fairly potent lobbying group.
Absolutely.
Who advocate for access to land, and they've actually been really successful for what they call the right to roam, especially in Scotland. In Scotland, it is basically viewed as a natural right.
Yeah.
You can walk almost wherever you want because it's Scotland, baby.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's very different than the United States, where people love to put their no trespassing signs on their property.
I will stick my dogs on you.
I own
that
this
kind
land.
of stuff.
Do not walk in this forest.
Yeah, and apparently, in England too, there's a lot of that sentiment as well.
Sure.
So the Ramblers have made great progress in Scotland. They've made some progress in England.
A little bit in Wales.
A little bit in Wales,
Yeah.
But they're still trying to make it so that you can get wherever you want. And one of the things that they've come up with is the One Coast for All campaign. A footpath all the way around England.
Wow.
And I think a part of it opened in Weymouth, which it's entirely possible that is not how that's pronounced. In June 2012, the first part of the England coastal path opened in Weymouth, or Worcestershire is probably how it's pronounced.
Well, they've been responsible for getting a lot of acts passed over the years, allowing access, and I think it's great that they're still rambling after all these years.
Still rambling. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, go to ramblers.co.uk, which is how you can tell it's a British site.
Yeah, and we encourage you to ramble on your own. Exercise walks are great, but take a soul stroll every now and then. Slow your pace down and just sort of drink it in.
Yeah.
Carry a beer with you and drink that in.
Drink it in.
Right?
Yeah.
But be careful and stay on the sidewalk.
Nice COA.
Great. We will see you next week on Internet Roundup.